I'm Lucy.
And I'm Jennifer.
You're listening to Everything I Know About.
Each week, we share everything we know about a new topic, equipped with some internet research and a little too much exposure to pop culture.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, everyone. Lucy and I have been on the entrepreneur game right now. We're developing our website for the product that we're building, which we're going to keep hush for right now. We will talk more about that when the time comes. But I've been really inspired by other female founders recently, hearing their stories and hearing about what they're building. So I really wanted to just dig into a few of these female founders, like ones that you don't hear about so often. Like, we're not going like Elizabeth Holmes on this. We're not doing like the big people that we all know, but more under the radar people that you're like, how did they get started? That 0 to 1, the inception from having an idea to bringing it to market to the point that somebody like me or you would be able to look up their story and be inspired by it. I think that's so fascinating. So in this episode, Lucy and I both picked 2 female founders that we thought were inspiring, and we're going to share their stories on the pod today.
Yeah, and for those who don't know us or didn't listen to our intro episode,
blasphemy, go back.
A little bit about our backgrounds. Actually, this is the episode that's probably going to be most in our wheelhouse because both Jennifer and I, we have backgrounds in tech. And actually, we met working for a small startup that was venture backed. And I think they had like 8 people at the time. So we've both been a part of other companies' early stages, 0 to 1 journeys, as well as I actually have started a company. But I think for me, it's almost weird because the podcast has been like a good escape from my normal life and like what I would normally do for work / think about. But I think because I've taken a long enough break, like the last time I had a quote unquote real job where I had a paycheck was fall last year at this point. So it's been almost 6 months that I haven't been in that kind of VC world. And so it was actually really fun to come back, think about these things again. And also, in particular, the 2 female founders I picked, they're kind of semi in my network. And so I'm excited to like share about them because I feel like they're more unknown than maybe some of the bigger names out there.
Amazing. I haven't taken a peek at your research, so this is new to me as well. Do you want to go first and share one of your founders?
Sure. Okay, so both founders, 2 stories I want to share. They're actually both Asian American founders, but I feel like they're pretty different. So the first story I'll share is maybe more of the traditional, like what you would consider Silicon Valley typical founder story. Her name is Lucy Guo. I've heard about her peripherally for actually some time because we definitely have mutual connections. She was a Thiel Fellow, which for those who don't know, Peter Thiel has a fellowship where he like pays kids to drop out of college. Questionable, but
one of my founders is a Peter Thiel Fellow.
Oh, okay. Yes. I feel like a lot of these younger founders, like these whiz kids, tend to be Thiel Fellows because they were literally given $100,000 to drop out of school and start a company.
I would do it too.
The last company I worked for was founded by a Thiel Fellow. So I know that he knows her. Anyway, I don't personally know her. So if she ever listens to this or if someone who knows her knows this, like I don't know her personally at all. I'm just sharing what I was able to find online. But she co-founded Scale AI. Have you heard of the company Scale AI?
I haven't.
Scale AI, I mean, now AI is everywhere, but they were like the OG quote unquote AI company, you know, CAPTCHAs and things like that. Mm-hmm. They have a really big operations team of actual humans based in other parts of the world who like manually tag things. They provide a lot of underlying data for a lot of big companies.
Wait, so when you say recapture, are you talking about like click these pictures that have a motorcycle?
Yes, because to train the AI programs, the AI needs to be told what's correct and what's wrong. Humans gave input into like training our AI programs to be accurate. After a while, that computer learns, but in the beginning, the computer doesn't know what is a motorcycle, what is not. So let's say it makes, 1,000, I don't know, I'm not an AI expert, but it makes guesses. And then a human says, okay, the computer was correct 80% of the time, feeds that data back, and then the system retrains and becomes smarter.
Got it.
When we were graduating college, like around 2015, that's what AI was. It's a B2B company. Companies pay Scale AI for this data to help train their own algorithms.
Wow. Okay, so her company is purely on the manual labor of training the models.
Yeah. Well, so she co-founded the company in 2016, Lucy Guo and Alexander Wang. She actually left Scale in 2018. So he is still running the company. I am familiar with Scale AI because actually one of the side projects I started with my husband was this Slack app. Scale AI was a customer of ours.
No way.
So yeah, they're a really late stage startup at this point. In 2023, they were valued at $7.3 billion.
Wow.
So it's a
Oh my
huge success
God.
story. Yeah, yeah. Some people obviously in tech know about it, but I feel like the average person probably has never heard of their name, but it's definitely one of the craziest unicorn stories. And both the co-founders were really young, like they dropped out of school to do this. Even though she left the company 2 years in, she still owns like 6% of the company because she had co-founder shares. So Forbes has ranked her as valued at $430 million.
Good for
So
her.
it's on paper because
her.
it's these shares at scale, but she's 29 and she's worth,
That's incredible.
$400 million. So
I want to know how you get an idea to do something like that and where you even start. Because like as a college student, where are you like AI needs human training models and I know how to make that happen?
or like, where do you get the confidence?
Was she an engineer?
She was an engineer. She studied computer science with human interaction. So pretty cutting edge for the time. But actually what I want to talk about with her is her new company. So all this stuff I shared about Scale AI was just like stuff from my memory and working with them in the past. But after she left Scale AI in 2018, she started a venture capital firm. But then in the past 2 years, she has just launched a new company called Passes. It is a social platform that helps content creators diversify their revenue streams. Her founding story that she tells is that she had a lot of friends who were musicians or like creators on TikTok, and they were struggling with the fact that their income was really like up and down since a lot of it is driven by brand deals rather than from your direct audience. And so some months they would be making a lot of money, some months not so much, and they felt very vulnerable to the algorithm changing and the whims of trends, and so wanted to build this company to like help her friends. And that's how they got their initial customers, just like people she knew. And then it kind of ballooned from there. I thought this was interesting because I feel like when you like are in the startup space and you hear a lot of these founders tell their stories, you start to realize that there's just this myth around being a founder, especially being a young founder, and this reputation that you almost have to cultivate to like show that you're really a genius or like really cutting edge. Obviously, the biggest example of this in recent news is Sam Bankman-Fried, how he cultivated that image of being this nerdy gamer genius boy, right? And so her story that is in the media is that she is the child of 2 Chinese immigrants. She grew up poor / frugal, and she like sold Pokemon cards in elementary school. So like she was an entrepreneur even when she was really young, was really early into Bitcoin. So that's how she made her first million, was like in high school. And I don't know, she like definitely understands the game and is like, here are the facts that people want to know about me to make me seem really cool. So I think some of this, because I don't know Lucy, I only read articles about her. I'm sure some of the stuff I'm going to share maybe is like part of the narrative, but this is how she like is outwardly branding herself, at least. She's super frugal, really savvy. Even after her success at Scale AI, she lived near the Las Vegas airport so that she could just go into the Amex lounge and eat all her meals there.
That sounds bomb.
I mean, yeah, she like has hacked her life where she got a buddy pass for an airline so she could book first class tickets anywhere for free. And then she would just book like a refundable ticket, go into the airport because she says she could skateboard to the airport, eat dinner, eat lunch, and then skateboard home. And so her costs were very, very low.
I need to know more about this airport lounge meal thing. So she would book a ticket and then cancel it because you can't get into the lounge without a boarding pass.
Right. So like she would book a refundable ticket.
And then just cancel like 30 minutes before boarding or something?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of genius. I mean, you would think at some point she gets blocked from the airlines, though.
It's like being a ramen founder, but like this is
bougie ramen founder.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I don't know. I've met people like that who like, or even the Steve Jobs thing, wearing a black turtleneck sweater every day so you don't have to make a decision, or like people who eat Chipotle for every single meal so they don't have to think about their food, to like focus all of their energy on like starting a company. I don't know. I don't really buy it, if that's like your lifestyle. That's so unsustainable, in my view, at least for myself.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, it's like cosplaying the entrepreneur.
Totally.
It's like, I eat the same meal every single day because optimization.
Right.
Like everything is like, how can I optimize?
Yeah. And they have no personality outside of just their identity as the founder.
Yeah. And then you have to have pictures of you on the floor, no furniture, working from a cardboard box.
Right.
Frame it somewhere and be like, look, we're doing it. We're doing it, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I do have cardboard boxes here and I'm like moving. So I guess I am doing it.
You could do it. We should post it on TikTok and then everyone will think you're legit, So her new company, Forbes just released an article the past couple days about her raising a $40 million Series A, which is a large amount for a Series A, especially in like huge. The environment today. But again, I think just another little small thing I noticed. So this is her A. She raised a $9 million seed round initially. And And that seed round was actually led by a crypto VC firm. And at the time, the way she was pitching passes was like, yeah, it helps creators, but it's also like a Web3 crypto company. And now in this Forbes article, crypto's not mentioned at all. It was talking about AI. Like, we use AI to help creators.
Wow.
And again, this is just like, oh, of course, she knows how to play the game, right? She knows to pitch herself as what's hot right now. Because 2 years ago, that was crypto, and now it's AI.
Yeah, totally. That's my takeaway from that. It makes total sense. But what is passes exactly? Like, how are they helping creators?
Yeah. So their competitors are like Patreon, any kind of platform that helps creators make money directly from their fans. They say that their differentiation is that they offer more features. So a couple of those that they highlight are like, you can tip creators directly. You can pay for one-on-one calls. You can pay for like lives, even at the per minute level. You can pay for DMs. Basically, you can just pay to either unlock content or have more access to like your favorite creators. Their business model is that they charge 10% plus a 30-cent per transaction fee on every single payment.
That's a lot.
Which I also thought that was a lot. But then I looked at Patreon's payment structure and they charge 8% for their standard plan and 12% for their premium. So I think
but the transaction fee is what gets me, because if you're charging for a DM, you can't charge more than a few dollars for that, right? So like even the 30 cents, that's a lot.
Sure. Yeah. Obviously the payment processor takes a big portion, right? Like every time a credit card transaction goes through.
Yeah, I had no idea until
7% plus 30 cents. So I think some of that is
insane.
probably just them paying the credit card provider that they're getting charged. But yeah, the company now, they say that they've got 1,000 creators and 500,000 fans of those creators using their software.
Wow, those are big numbers.
Yeah, for sure. Especially for like a relatively young company. It does sound like she's quite well connected, but still, I think to like grow that fast and like still be pretty under the radar. So we'll see. I mean, it's still really early. I don't think it's clear yet whether they've really found product market fit or anything. But yeah, I just thought her story was really interesting because to me, it's like, here's almost a perfect example of like how it works in Silicon Valley. It's usually white men who are playing into these tropes and like getting the winnings. And so I think it's admirable and cool to see a young Asian woman also being able to like demand the same premium. Raising $40 million right now, that is insane. Like 2% of all VC funding goes to women. And she's one of those women who's been able to like make it work. And she obviously has the track record of scale, which I'm sure helps her.
Yeah, she definitely has the pedigree.
Yeah, exactly.
But she earned it. She earned her pedigree. So
yeah,
that doesn't detract. Love that story. One of the founders that I chose, she is a new founder, Christine Locker, and she is founder of Locker. So we can see where the name came from.
She used her last name. I feel like that's so rare. I don't really hear that.
It is rare. Yeah. So I found her through, there's this girl on TikTok who is starting her own VC fund called Bridge Club. She is 31 and she's an ex-VC herself, but she's really passionate about uplifting other women entrepreneurs. And she does this series on TikTok that's like 3 women founding billion-dollar businesses. And she highlighted Locker. And I thought it was such a cool idea. It's an idea, actually, Lucy, you and I had talked about when we were brainstorming our startup. So think about it like a shoppable Pinterest. And it's a Chrome extension and app. And anytime you see something that you want to buy, instead of leaving your tab open, you save it to your Locker. And then you can create collections. You can share it with your friends. The idea is that you eliminate all of the screenshots and the tabs open in your browser, and everything's in a safe place. What I think is really interesting about this idea is not only is it an idea that I think lots of people have, but I think it's really hard to monetize, but it's this catch-22 where it's also really useful. And since everyone has the idea, I'm sure everyone wants to use it. And so I was fascinated with how she's executing this. And she's actually doing really well. I'm a little proud of Miss Locker. So I think it's really cool also that her last name is Locker, because what a perfect name for this app. It's like written in the stars for her.
Wait, so how many years has she been running the company? It's like brand new, right?
I think she launched the MVP in 2021. So Christine is 29 right now. She started off in real estate. And then in 2021, she had the idea for Locker, quit her real estate job, and bootstrapped the entire thing with her savings. And she designed it. I think she got a developer to help her. And she scaled it up to 6,000 users within the first year. In 2022, she was looking for funding from VCs and no one wanted to touch it. So she was like really upset about that. But she ended up finding an female angel investor who gave her $1 million.
Oh, so big check from an angel. Wow.
Yeah, huge check. But I think this really speaks to like women understand women's problems. I know you had this issue when you were starting Honeydew, which was your first startup.
Yeah. Which was in the wedding planning space.
Exactly. Yeah. And tell us about that with pitching to male VCs.
Oh, just nobody got it. Yeah. I mean, I was living in Silicon Valley at the time, so I was doing a lot of in-person VC meetings, and everybody I spoke to was a man. Even like our interview for Y Combinator, it was 3 men who were interviewing us and like so could not understand our pain point that they asked us to stay and we interviewed again later.
Oh my
But
God.
also, even the second time, it was still 3 men.
Yeah.
I'm sure that wasn't the only reason that they didn't invest, but I did find it particularly hard to get people to understand that this was even a problem. Because in wedding planning, like typically, even men who've had weddings and who are married, it wasn't painful for them because the wife, the bride, made all the decisions and like did all the work. And I think there's a lot of planning work that women just take on naturally because of how we're socialized or how society's set up that men don't even realize is a burden.
Yeah.
So we actually found a lot of traction with our customers because they were like women who understood that and felt the pain. It was not actually hard for us to sell the product, but for raising money, it was extremely hard. Like VCs didn't understand why this was a problem.
So that's literally the exact story of Locker, where it's like the VCs didn't get it, but then finding product market fit really quickly. And I scrolled through their TikTok, their comments, like all of their social media, and people love this product. They're like, this is so innovative. I'm so happy this exists. And so, yeah, it's like something that definitely is resonating with the community. They're currently at 80,000 users, which they scaled up pretty quickly from that 6K, in 2 years. After she got her $1 million, she used that to hire a design firm, did a total rebrand, hired her first full-time employee, and they made the app and relaunched everything. And that was when she got her 80K users. And a lot of the comments that I'm seeing on her social media, which I also had the same question, I'm like, how do you differentiate this from like LTK or Pinterest? And actually, when we were thinking about this idea, that was our big pain point too. Like, how do you monetize this thing and how do you differentiate? And her response is Pinterest is monetized content first, shopping second, and not every link is shoppable. So it's actually really frustrating when you see like, oh, I love this sweater. You don't actually know where it's from on Pinterest, where everything on Locker is shoppable. And it's not geared towards monetizing an audience like LTK is. It's truly for the everyday person who just wants to like share a list with another friend.
So how does Locker make money?
This I was really happy to find. They just announced their seed funding round. They raised $2.5 million. Like this just got announced like 4 days ago. So TechCrunch.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Look
TechCrunch
at
did
us.
a
We're
whole
on the
article
money,
them.
on the news.
In the know. Yeah, TechCrunch did an article about their business model. So I got the info from there. But they said Locker's business model is partnering with brands through affiliate networks, and their average commission rate is 12%. But I guess if you have better placement or if you want better placement on the app, it can go to as high as 25%. If brands don't play in the affiliate space, she removes them from the discovery page.
So the users aren't paying for anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I find those kind of stories where somebody put their whole life savings to like take this bet when people have so much conviction in their idea that they put their own money in. I actually think that's so much harder than raising from VC and like spending someone else's money.
Oh, 100%.
And it's like, I could never see myself doing that and taking like that big of a risk with my own savings. But I feel like a lot of the times, those are the stories that I like admire the most. And I feel like sometimes if you do that, other investors are like, wow, you are going to try so hard to make this work because you've already put so much into it. And that makes them maybe more likely to support you.
Exactly. And already Locker has a $9 million valuation. That's what they raised at. So she put in, 3 years of her time, like all with her savings, bootstrapped it, and already got it to a $9 million valuation. I think that's amazing. So I was really inspired by her story, especially because it's one that I think she's really going to have to fight to get investors to understand the vision and the business model.
Yeah.
And she's making it happen. So I admire that. And it is purely conviction based.
Right. Yeah. And hopefully, like, if it really does resonate with users, the proof is in the pudding, right? People are flocking to it. And then the investors will be interested, but they'll be too late to the game.
I hope those VCs come knocking to her door.
Yeah.
What do we have next?
Next on my list is Tracy Young. She is also Asian American. Actually, her parents were refugees from the Vietnam War, and they came to America on a boat. Like, I am literally just reading this book right now called Wandering Souls. Have you heard of this book?
I don't think so.
It's by Cecile Pin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her last name correctly, but it's about refugees from the Vietnam War escaping communism. And it's like such a sad read. I mean, obviously, like I learned about it in history class, but I feel like when you read firsthand accounts, even like fictionalized narratives, I can't imagine anything harder. Like my parents were immigrants, but they came here on planes. They had a destination. They knew they were going to be allowed into the US. Tracy has an interview and she told about her parents' story. And it's like insane. Like basically her parents were on this boat with her older sister who was a baby. She was 1 year old. They were fleeing Vietnam. They were basically starving. No country wanted to take these 100 refugees stuck on a fishing boat. So they like bribed a oil rig to sink their boat because with maritime law, you as a decent human don't let somebody drown. So if their boat is sinking, then the Coast Guard will save you. They bribed the oil rig to sink their boat, and then the Malaysian Coast Guard came, rescued these 100 refugees, and then they were in a refugee camp in Malaysia for like a year before somebody in the US in San Bruno sponsored their family, because that's how it worked. You had to get a sponsoring family. So that's how they ended up in California.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, so she was born in the United States. They grew up in California. Her parents worked menial jobs. Like her mom made microchips, actually, because they were in Silicon Valley before a bunch of chips were being made. But eventually they did start their own restaurant supply company. And so they were really supportive of her starting a company, actually. So her story is that she has founded 2 companies. Her new company is called TigerEye, but the first company that she founded was called PlanGrid. And Avery actually worked at PlanGrid.
Really?
So I've met her, yeah, because
God.
when Avery and I first started dating, he was working there, and they had this amazing company retreat that they allowed you to bring your significant other on.
That's
So I met her there.
Wow.
I mean, she's like a really petite Asian woman, and one that's still so rare in Silicon Valley to see like a female Asian CEO. So even before I met her in person, I was like very interested in her and her story.
Yeah.
At the time, I was starting Honeydew. So I was like, wow, here's an amazing example. Because so a little bit about her background. She went to school to study construction engineering, which also is like a really male-dominated field. She graduated around the 2008 recession. So she entered this industry where like the housing bubble had just burst, and it was like
no construction's going on.
Yeah, it was a really bad time to be in construction engineering. But during that like real life experience, she got the inspiration for a company. PlanGrid is basically blueprint software. So while working as a construction engineer, she realized like, wow, there's like a lot of problems in my industry that it feels like software could just solve. Why are construction plans always changing and nobody has the correct information? Or like, how do you do change orders and like all this paper floating around? Wouldn't it be better if that was digitized? And so she actually had 4 other co-founders.
Whoa.
Who were all men, but they made her the CEO, which I also think is like
queen.
Incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah. And it wasn't even a position that she thought of herself as or like wanted. It was something that they were all like, we think you should be the CEO. Like, you're doing the job already. You should just do it.
I love supportive men. That's amazing.
Yeah. And like one of her co-founders was her boyfriend at the time, who is now her husband. They built this company together. And now the new company she started, they're co-founding another company together.
So this woman is just goals.
Literally, when I met her on this retreat, she had a baby in a stroller with her husband, who is the CTO of PlanGrid. And she was pregnant. Oh my God. And she was running a 400-person company that, so PlanGrid sold for $870 million.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Avery was there during the time that they were acquired by Autodesk, which is a public company. They work in construction software, design software. PlanGrid was raising its Series C at the time and had the offer come in to like be bought. This was like, they founded PlanGrid in 2011. So I think even now it feels like there's so few women who look like me or women in general in positions of power. But I think back then it was like totally unheard of. And for her to like juggle being a mom plus doing this plus working with her husband, and like people at the company really, really liked her as a leader. They like really trusted her. I remember like Avery telling me he felt like she was just super honest during all hands and like wasn't afraid to address hard topics, would even bring them up proactively. And so as a result, the company just trusted her. She would be open with struggles that the company was going through, talk about when the company made mistakes. And so I think she had a lot of goodwill of like the people who'd worked there. I mean, a lot of Avery's colleagues had worked there for 4 or 5 years. They were like not churning employees because the culture was so good. And I feel like a lot of those traits are what women leaders bring to the table.
I 100% agree. I've worked for both male and female leaders, and my female leaders are always like, they have a level of candor and it cultivates camaraderie in a way that like I've never felt with a CEO or a leader that's more keeping it under the books or like wanting to present a strong face. And it actually comes off as weak. The strength comes from like, this is what we're doing. I know that you guys know. And even if you don't, I'm going to tell you, and we're building trust here. Like that comes off as strength in a way that I think only a female founder or leader can really do.
Yeah. Or even when you don't know, I think being able to be emotionally vulnerable, it's like scary, I think, for men. I don't know why, maybe because they don't think they can, but I feel like that's how women naturally lead. I mean, I have not had the privilege of working for like female CEOs really, but I feel like even when I'm on teams of women, I just feel like the way we work is so different than when you're surrounded by men.
Totally. 100%.
Yeah. So after she sold PlanGrid, I mean, dude, if I was her, I would just be like, let me relax. She gave 5-6 years of her life to starting this company. She actually writes a lot about her experience, and I'll link her blog, tracy.posthaven.com, if anyone's curious, but I'll link it in the Patreon. And she writes a lot about her experience. Like, even in all the interviews I've seen of her, she just is so honest. She's like, yeah, being a founder is like so hard. Every single day I wake up, the customers are all angry at me. I need to solve their problems, and then just rinse and repeat. And like, it's so hard to balance that with being a mom. Her message was always, yeah, we're going to work really hard to build this company, but also everyone has a life. Balance is important. As a mom, I think she had a lot of credibility to also speak to those things because people could see her like juggling it.
Amazing.
In the office.
When I worked for Ellevest, which is a female-founded investment firm, one of the company values is personal lives matter. Like, that was literally a company value.
Yeah, that's so rare.
Yeah.
I feel like only a female-founded company would be able to have the forethought to realize that would be important.
Yep.
So after she sold PlanGrid, she became a Y Combinator visiting partner for 2 years, and then now has founded a new company. It's called TigerEye. It is a B2B SaaS software company. It's actually still in stealth, so it's not like super clear how they're differentiated. Like, on their website, it just says that they find revenue risks and opportunities for your sales pipeline to help sales teams move faster. So that said, I don't know exactly what it's doing, but she wrote about why she decided to start this company. And the quote really resonated with me. She said, quote, "The most surprising lesson I learned from building PlanGrid was that the best product doesn't necessarily win an enterprise, but those with the largest sales teams win. Even with a meaningful outcome," referring to PlanGrid and like the fact that they were sold for $875 million, "we lost in the market. A big reason why we're building TigerEye is to build sales software to help companies with the best products win."
Oh, I like that mission.
Yeah. And I really like that mission. I'm like, sales does not excite me at all. I find enterprise sales, B2B SaaS, to be so boring. But that mission like does really resonate with me because I've seen that even in my like limited experience. You have these like big, like Salesforce, right? Which is, they have such a big sales team, but like I've used their product and I find it so unintuitive.
Yeah.
And yet they're a behemoth,
Totally. I almost don't want to use companies that are advertising or selling to me because I feel like there's going to be a better option. It's just they don't have the dollars to get in front of me. And so when I like stumble upon a product that I'm like, this actually solves a need, and I stumbled upon it, I'm so much more likely to use it.
Yeah. So I'm super excited to see what she builds and if she's really able to solve this problem. They raised a $30 million Series A in September 2022.
And they're still in stealth with the Series A.
Yeah, I imagine their software is going to takes time to build.
Of course.
Because if you're like launching enterprise established companies, you can't really like do that with just an MVP. They are open to like alpha and beta customers right now.
I hope she solves that problem for the world. I hope she solves that problem.
All right, who's your last founder?
Okay, my last founder, I'm realizing the pattern here is you picked these badass women that are like solving problems in male spaces with like these kind of like unsexy products, but like really doing it.
Well, the
and, like,
creator
making
one
a ton
was
of money.
sexy.
Okay, their second passes are sexy. The first passes a little bit unsexy, construction and AI. I definitely was leaning more towards people who I was like, wow, this is an insane idea that I don't understand how you would monetize it, but somehow this person did. And that's crazy. And so my second founder is Tara Bosch or Bosch. I hope I'm saying it right. Who is the founder of SmartSweets, the sugar-free candies. Have you seen these?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I've had them.
Yeah. Like the Swedish fish and like the peach rings and stuff.
Yeah, the gummies.
Yeah, she has a really interesting story. I was shocked to find that she's our age. She's 29 years old.
Damn, all these 29-year-olds, man, killing it.
I know. She graduated high school in 2012, just like me. And she founded SmartSweets in 2016. So she dropped out of college to do it. She was a Teal Fellow. So Tara did get her 100K. She dropped out of school. Her story was that she wanted to kick her sugar addiction, but she didn't. I feel like every founder has to have this feel-good story that probably isn't real. But like her feel-good story is her and her grandma used to sit on the couch and eat candy together. And that was their way that they bonded. So she wanted to make a sugar-free candy. So she did all of this research, bought ingredients from Amazon, including a gummy mold, and was just testing things out in her kitchen. Finally came up with a formula that she liked. Well, she was selling it out of her car at first, which... candy from a car. Only a woman would be able to do this, right? So she's selling candy from her car.
Oh my God. Hopefully she wasn't driving a white van.
Yeah. As like a 21-year-old. And then she is calling all of these grocers. She's from Canada. She finally gets on the phone with a few Canadian grocers, gets into stores in 2016.
But she's still making it herself at this point, like out of her house?
I'm a little confused on the timeline. So here's kind of what's happening in that like 2016 timeframe. So she's not only a Teal Fellow at this point, has dropped out of school, but she's also part of this startup incubator that gave her $15,000. I think that was part of the testing, and they helped her find a manufacturer. So I think she did the formulation herself and then obviously manufactured out. And then during this time when she was in the grocers, she got a spot on the Canadian Shark Tank. It's just called Dragon's Den. And
whoa. Wait, hold on. What a name. I like that way better than Shark Tank.
I agree. Dragon Den is great. So she secured $100,000 for a 5% stake in SmartSweets, which the publicity of the show led to Whole Foods reaching out to her. And they made a deal with her, 450 locations in Whole Foods in 2018. So she grew really fast from that publicity. She ended up raising $6 million over the lifetime of SmartSweets, but she maintained majority ownership. And within 4 years, she was bought out at $360 million.
Wow. From a PE firm?
From TPG Growth.
Yeah.
So yes. And as of 2023, they're still making $55 million in revenue, and she's still on the board. So she's product and innovation right now. She stepped down as CEO. So she's not handling any of the business stuff, just doing the fun stuff. I love her story. She wanted to make candy. She got it out there, made a few $100 million in the process, and now just gets to innovate on candy all day. Go Tara.
Yeah, what a dream. Yeah. I feel like with Shark Tank, being a consumer product founder and going on Shark Tank, even if you don't get the investment, is just amazing publicity. I feel like a lot of success stories just happened because of that platform. Because like I think that's the biggest challenge with consumer is like, how do you get an audience and like cut through the noise without having to spend millions of dollars to like buy ads?
And even if you don't get a lot of publicity from Shark Tank itself, you can just use it as an ad, like your clips from Shark Tank. I see that all the time. It's just as paid ads. Like they said this wouldn't work.
Yeah, people love an underdog story.
100%.
You would never think that making your own candy brand would lead to that outcome. Candy's so tough because all of the candy brands are made by just like a couple major manufacturers, you know, like Mars and whatnot. Nestle. So it feels like a really tough space to compete in because like the margins are so low.
Her first bag sold for like $3.20 Canadian. So just like the volume that you have to get to like 55 million revenue is insane. Those are our founders.
Yeah, this was fun. Well, we talked about making this a regular series. It's a bit different than our other episodes so far, but like maybe we'll I don't think we should make it entrepreneurs all the time. I feel like we could do a week where it's cool women from history or like in other different spaces. Yeah. But I feel like there's so many untold stories. The 2 picks you did are definitely, I feel like you don't hear those stories that often, right? There's like young women who are just striking out on their own and like putting their own money in, working in a space that feels like it's not going to lead to traditional success. Mm-hmm. Whereas like I picked founders where their stories of who they are as people is really impressive. Like that they're worked against so many challenges so that they had made it in like a traditional successful way in the entrepreneurial world. So I feel like if we did this more often, we would probably pick really different people to research and then could be interesting. I know I'd learn a lot.
Yeah, I mean, same. I agree. What draws you to like those types of stories?
Yeah, I mean, I love an underdog story, right? I think one, given it was about entrepreneurship, I picked people who like I kind of related to. I think if we did something about history, like it wouldn't be someone I necessarily relate to, but at least in this context, it was Asian American women who, if you compare and contrast Lucy and Tracy, I think actually their approaches are pretty different. Lucy is savvy. She like knows how to play the game and she's found success. I don't think Tracy knew how to play the game necessarily. I think she just is that classic story of like have a problem that you faced yourself and then dig your heels in and solve it because you know the problem best. And it's not like sexy or anything. It's just like put your nose to the grindstone and like work hard. Though they were just 5-6 years apart, I feel like the landscape for women entrepreneurs has changed so much and probably even more so now, right? Like I think Lucy, even in 2016, like she's our age. I know for me growing up, yes, it was like more rare for women to start companies, but you still saw them. Like you saw like the Glossier founder, you saw like all of these really sexy stories kind of splashed across the media. Like you saw Elizabeth Holmes, right? I feel like in 2008, 2009, like maybe because I was too young, but I just feel like there wasn't even that.
Yeah.
And I think for me, like Tracy definitely feels like someone I would look up to. She's further along in life. She like has had all this career success, but also I feel like I'd really admire her values and like the life she's built outside of her work.
100%. I agree. She's a very impressive person. Everyone on this list is very impressive people.
Why did you pick the 2 women you picked? I mean, I feel like I kind of know, but I want to hear it from you.
Well, tell me what you suspect.
Well, I think because you've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I think you also are a person who like we're different in that when you look at a problem and you're like, oh, this is a good idea. Like I feel you would be the kind of person to be like, I have a lot of conviction. I think I can be the one to make it. Let me put everything into this. Whereas I'm not like that. I would need a lot of validation, and I 100% rather spend someone else's money than my own to figure it out and like get that validation. So I feel like you picked founders whose stories, like I feel like these stories could be you in another life.
Yeah, basically. Thanks, Lucy. You hit it nail on the head. No, yeah, I really admire people who just have conviction in something and are like, I'm passionate about this and I'm just going to do it. And then they find success, because I think so often it's kind of like when we talk about people who want to have creative careers when they're younger and their parents are like, oh, honey, you're not going to make money doing that. It's kind of the same thing in the entrepreneurial space in a different capacity. It's like you can have somebody like pitch you an idea for Scale AI. You're like, wow, that's really impressive. Like she's going to be successful. Or you could have somebody pitch you the sugar-free candy company and you're like, oh, honey, that's cute. But then they still sell it for hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm like, fuck yeah, that's badass. I love that.
They actually made similar amounts of money at the end of the day from their first companies.
Yeah. Crazy. One sounds way more fun too. Like just throwing it out there.
Amazing.
Well, I would love to do this again. If anyone has a female entrepreneur that we should highlight or someone from history, hit us up at the everythingiknowaboutpod@gmail.com and we will put them on the list for next time.
We can actually respond in real time to listeners if they write in. So let us know if you've got any feedback or ideas for future episodes.
God, if we could do a mailbag episode, that's when I know we've made it.
I know.
So anyone just write
Somebody
us. Somebody
please write us.
Begging for attention. If you don't want to write us, leave us a review. That would be really helpful.
Or on all the socials. We are there. You can DM us. Slide into
We're everywhere.
We're everywhere.
We are not hard to find.
If you enjoy the pod, we would love for you to give us a follow and rate us on Apple Podcasts, which helps us get the word out and reach new listeners. Full transcripts and show notes are available on Patreon, where if you choose to become a patron, you'll also get access to bonus content, our monthly book club, and our eternal gratitude.
If you'd like to get in touch or suggest a topic for a future episode, email us at everythingiknowaboutpod@gmail.com or DM us across all socials at EikaPod, that's EIKA pod. Thanks for listening and see you next week.